This will be another of our bonus episodes where we get a bunch of queer Mormon folks around a table and just hear their takes on a particular topic. This time, we hear what they have to say at the 2-year anniversary of what many call the Policy of Exclusion. Let's look for rainbows together, y'all. So won't you love me right? Love me right through your heart, my darling. Yeah, won't you love me right? Love me right through your heart, my darling.
So I thought we'd just go around and talk, and you guys could introduce yourselves however you want. And then I thought we would just talk about maybe, we'll get to that, and then I'll ask you some questions maybe. So do you want to start?
Okay, I will start. My name is Blair Osler. I'm bisexual, technically pansexual, and I'm still an active Mormon.
My name is Wendell. I am a gay man. I am not active in the church, but I still hold my records. I still have my records in the church. As for my relationship, I've become more vocal about what I feel is wrong, or the unchristlike actions of the leaders and the members. But I guess we'll go into that later.
Okay.
I'm Dawn. I'm gay, and I just recently left the church about 4 weeks ago, and so that's quite a story, but I'm happy to be here.
Okay, I'm Morgan. I'm probably the most stereotypical lesbian you'll ever meet. I'm still active in the church. However, I think I'm going to take a little sabbatical, take time off. I don't really know where I stand with it right now. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Corey. I am an asexual biromantic. It's been years since I've been to church. I still consider myself Mormon, and I just recently submitted to have my records removed. Hopefully that'll be going through at the first of the year.
Cool. All right. So we want to talk. Today's the second anniversary of the policy that was leaked, the exclusion policy. So I thought it would be good to talk about how that has affected you. And maybe it would be helpful to start off like where you were when you heard about it. Because I think there's some really interesting stories here.
Yeah.
Just go in the same order? Or whatever.
Okay, I'll go ahead and go. So I remember hearing about it officially being from the church. I know there was rumors ahead of time, like, no, this can't possibly be from the church. This is just, anti-Mormon nonsense and things like that. So I didn't hear it until November 6th, the morning I woke up with my phone. I checked my phone, and it was true. It was from the church, and I was in my room, and I totally just, started bawling my eyes out. I was just so sad that my religion would go this far. And my kids came in my room, and they saw me crying, and they were just like, Mom, what's wrong? And so I had to explain to them what happened. My oldest son was 8 at the time and had his baptism scheduled to be baptized. And as a bisexual in a heterosexual marriage, I was exempt from the policy. My kids had a queer parent, but it was okay because I wasn't acting on it. And so my husband and I both felt really torn as to what to do about this. Like, do we baptize them? Is it better to baptize them and say, hey, queer parents are still baptizing their kids? Or should we not baptize them in solidarity? Like, there was just a lot of talk and discussion about what to do. We ended up telling my oldest son the problem and what happened in the policy and everything, and we just said, you decide what you want to do, these are the consequences and everything. And he said he wants to stay, keep going to church, and wear his rainbow button to church. And so we said, great, that's what we're going to do. But I mean, it's still a struggle though, to I definitely have like an internalized bi privilege kind of guilt complex because like the policy is directed specifically at homosexuals and homosexuals in a homosexual marriage and relationship. And as a bi person in a heterosexual marriage, you're just, exempt from that in a lot of ways. It's like, oh, you don't count. It doesn't really exist. It's okay. We'll just like sweep that away, which in some ways is bi-erasure, but in some ways is also bi-privilege. It's like this, paradoxical state to be in. But right now, my second son, 2 years later, is getting ready for his baptism, and we find ourselves having the same conversation now. Like, are we sure we want to do this? Is this the direction we want to go? And it's hard, it's hard. But I feel like if there's anything I could use my bi privilege for, it would be to be in the pews at church so they can continue to sit and look at me every Sunday and just look at me and acknowledge that this exists. You can't other an entire group of people like that.
That's a lot of pressure to take on.
It was a lot of pressure for both of us. We definitely had like a lot of like crying, like, because for me anyway, I'm a 9th generation Mormon. My 4th great grandmother is one of Joseph Smith's plural wives, and so I'm sealed to Joseph Smith in that vein and everything. And same with my husband too. So like Mormonism for us is just like, it's home, you know what I mean? So it's definitely was like, having to choose between communities, right? Like, I don't want to betray the queer community, but I also feel like Mormonism is a strong part of my identity too. So it's really difficult to find that balance and to walk that fine line. And, you do the best you can, but at the same time, it's just like, no matter what you do, it's wrong.
So when the day the policy came out, I remember those couple of weeks quite well, because about 3 weeks earlier I came out on Facebook, and I remember the very post as well, that I was going to do everything I can to live the gospel, and I felt that this was where I basically felt this is where I needed to be. This is this is where I belong. And then several weeks later, the 5th, I saw my Facebook. This was like after work, and I just realized that my notifications were like 47 notifications. I'm like looking, it's like, whoa, wait, what is this? And I saw it. I was like, no, this can't be true, And then I read it. I read into the articles, and then I started reading the comments, and I felt, oh my gosh, this is painful. This is hurting a lot of people, and I didn't understand why. And then I told myself this can't be true. The church wouldn't go so far as to do that. And then when Elder Christofferson did that interview, that pretty much just, it was like a punch to the gut. But in my, I prayed about it. I prayed about it really long and really hard. And it's like, there's got to be, like in my mind, it's like, there's got to be a justifiable reason why this is going on. This is why this is happening. There has to be a good reason. I've heard it all. I've heard. I asked my roommates, and they were actually very, very, very mean about it, telling me it's just a separation of the wheat and the tares. I decided to move on, and then, but then in my heart, like, this isn't right. Like, the Spirit was literally screaming to me that this is not right. This is not right. And I was just so confused because, I was very active. I just got my temple recommend back. I was going to go to the temple. I was going to do everything I needed, and then this happens, and then it kind of piled on because several of my friends were also getting married. And then I just thought to myself, you know, like, now whatever I do, I'm stuck. Like I can't, like, basically I'll be forced to live a celibate life. I felt like a part of me felt like it was a threat. And watching one of my good friends get married and knowing that was pretty much the end of it, that we won't hang out anymore. It's basically, you know, he found his companion, he found his eternal companion, and here I am, you know, gonna be celibate and single for the rest of my life. That hit hard for me, you know. And then that was when I started to really struggle and question. I even went to this group because I'm part of Affirmation, but I was also part of another group called North Star. By the looks of the nods, a lot of you have heard about North Star.
Yeah, we've heard about it.
Not the security company either.
Yeah. And you know, I was very real and says, hey, you know, I'm not feeling good about this policy. I don't think that this is right. And the one thing that they first told me is that, did you pray about it? You didn't pray about it enough. You would know if you prayed hard enough that it was of God and it is right. Like, the family needs to be protected. And then, like, in my mind, it's like, this policy is basically defining what God sees as a worthy family, and I wasn't part of that kind of family either. You know, I was raised by a single mother, but that's for another story, another day. So yeah, I stopped going to church. I was extremely torn. You know, it felt like everything that I worked to have was basically taken from me. I confided in my bishop at the time, you know, that, hey, this is how I feel, and you know, I really stopped going to church because it was too painful. And then, you know, conference comes up and they say, you know, we need to sustain the church leaders no matter what, and I couldn't take it because I don't sustain this at all. You know, they say that was also the year when they said that it was revelation. It's like, this is not revelation. And then, and that year was hard for me. That was pretty much, you know, it was a priority that I moved out of St. George. It was becoming way too toxic for me. So when I went to one sacrament meeting, I guess my last sacrament meeting in the ward that I went to for like 4 years, and then afterwards my bishop came and told me in my home that I need to get over the fact that marriage is between a man and a woman. That there's nothing that you can say or do that'll make that change. And then, you know, I pretty much stopped him right there. I was like, Bishop, I'm honestly not fighting the brethren on this. Like, the church has been clear, but I'm asking you personally, if I came in with a partner, would you let me sit in the pews and make me feel welcome? And he didn't say anything. And then, so yeah, that hurt. And then afterwards, he went on to release me from my calling and take my temple recommend in my home. So that all of that happened within 7 months of the policy coming out. And as of now, like, I can go on, but you guys need your turns.
So sorry, Wendell.
Yeah, it happens, but, you know, because of that, you know, I'm here. I still to this day fight the justification of not only the family proclamation but the policy. You know, it's hurt a lot of people, and I don't think, maybe because, you know, I'm black and though I've not been a part of it during that time, I've seen, like, my own people be marginalized, and that's not cool. And that's not Christ-like. I'm fighting that.
Good. or defied?
So, as a little like backdrop to sort of understand where I was coming from at the time of the policy change, before my mission, I knew I was gay since I was 11. But because of what I had been told and things I had heard, I was determined to get rid of it. I thought I was a monster, and I thought that it was Satan, and that I was this messed up individual who did something wrong upon his life to have this happen. So, when the policy change happened, that was on my mission. One of the main reasons why I went on a mission was because I had been told that serving a mission would help resolve the gay issues. So, I really had this skewed view of life at that time, where that was half the reason I was out there. Half the reason I was working so hard was because I felt it needed to be gone. I felt that it was horrible. I felt that it was a sin. I thought it was messed up. And so when the policy change came out, I had really mixed feelings. I'd already seen a lot of historical issues while reading the history of the church books on my mission. I was conflicted because I felt like at that time that, I'd been halfway through my mission. Why wasn't it gone? I did everything I could do. I kept the rules. I had done all this tracting, all these knocking on doors. But I still had these feelings. And so when it came out, in some ways it confirmed to me that I was a monster. That I was this person who had all these problems. But then at the same time, there was still part of me that told me if God's plan was for everybody to be married between man and wife, why would any loving father set them up for failure? It didn't make sense to me. Why would he let that happen? Why would me, years of going to the temple every week, reading my scriptures, praying, serving a mission, why did these things not resolve the issues when I was told that doing them would help you repent? Which I felt I needed to, of something I didn't even have control of. And I was in pain. And I didn't know what to think. I felt really broken and torn apart. And I didn't really have anyone to talk to. I didn't know who I could talk to. I mean, before my mission, I had uncles who were gay. And I remember being told that, what they were doing was wrong. And so I didn't feel comfortable talking to my parents. I didn't really feel comfortable around my mission president or my companions to tell them and worry I would be sent home and that I would never change.
I saw that on my mission. There's an elder who was very obviously gay, and I saw how the other elders treated him. It broke my heart, and I was trying to be a good missionary, and so I couldn't get too close to him and make that friendship. And so I have seen, when I think Robert, that's what I think of. I don't know how he made it through his mission, and I don't know how you make it through your mission, and it just has to be the hardest thing in the world.
Yeah, and my shelf sort of cracked when I got home. Because the day I got home from my mission, I remember seeing the cutest guy in the airport and thinking, wow, I want to be with him. And then just being like, oh, it's not gone. It's still there. so since then, I've built the strength to come out. I'm no longer part of the church, but I'm happy out of the closet and out of the church being who I am.
That's awesome. Good for you. Good for you, job done.
So I was on my mission too when this policy came out, and a couple weeks prior, about a month prior, I'd finally come out to myself. I left on my mission thinking, no, I like guys, but girls are cute and stuff like that. I would convince myself that I was straight. It was ridiculous. God, it was ridiculous. But I finally come out to myself, and then a week before, I had just sent a letter back to my mom saying, "Hey, Mom, I'm gay." And so that was really fun. And so we were at a last active member's house, and we were just kind of shooting the ball, talking, laughing. And she brings up, "Oh, hey, did you hear about this policy change?" And she talks about it, and I'm like thinking in my head, "No, they wouldn't do that. That's your fake news." You know?
Fake news.
I was like, no, that can't be real. And we went home. I didn't think anything of it. We went to someone else's house the next day, and they brought it up. I'm like, you're kidding me. This is like I just could not believe that the church would do that. It made no sense to me, and I didn't get it. And I couldn't talk to anyone about it because I wasn't out at the time. And my companion was awful. She, funny story, she found out I was in love with this other girl back home, and so she told mission president about that, and so it was really great. So I couldn't talk to her about it, and so like I was just in the middle of nowhere in Idaho, just like, wow, my church doesn't want me, and it felt terrible because I had given everything to this church. I absolutely, to this day even, I love my mission. I love the church. I love serving. I love doing all these things. And to have the church just come up with this policy was like, why don't they want me? They say in conference, we have room for everyone,
Mm-hmm.
But like, you say that, but I don't know if you actually mean that. Like,
I do not think it means what you think it means.
it doesn't mean what you think it means. Yeah, so it was just really hard. That area of my mission was terrible because I just didn't know what to do. Like, I was in this weird position where, like, I still really, really love the church, and I still really love what I was doing and stuff, but at the same time, I really like girls, and I can't see my life, marrying a guy and being like that little Mormon family and stuff. Like, I can't do that. And so it just broke my heart that they would do that.
I was in a little bit of a different position than everybody else. Not in Mormon, you just made me feel so old. Y'all are on a mission, and I've been home for a decade. But, when this policy change happened, I was pretty much out. I think the line that I was using at the time was, I'm just not supposed to be Mormon right now. Fully expecting to go back in at a later date. I was a member of a couple of different post-Mormon Facebook groups that I've seen the chatter about. I'm like, oh, no, it's just kind of dismissing it, saying, no, this is just chatter. This is just the same, the rumor mill that happens whenever, just in that group of people that has reason to be better towards the church. You're going to get these nasty rumors, and they're not always accurate. But then I heard, from official sources that, yeah, this is church policy and this is the way it's going to be. And I felt like I'd been sucker punched. I really did. I felt like, where I'm asexual, marriage isn't something that I want. And it's not something that it's like, oh, the church is telling me that I can't be with the person that God programmed me to be with. But at the same time, I do have slightly stronger romantic attraction towards women than I do towards men. And I had a vision, I guess, for lack of a better word, of a woman that I knew in this vision that we were married and we were raising children together even though we weren't sexually active. And just the thought that if she's real, if I ever find this woman, that we can be married in the church. The church doesn't want us as a couple. The church doesn't want my hypothetical children. That's when I knew that the church didn't want me, and I was done with the church. I didn't feel like I could submit my resignation while my grandmother was still alive, and she has passed since. And there's just been a few other things that happened that got me to the point where I felt like it was time to resign. But that day, 2 years ago, that's when I knew that I couldn't be Mormon anymore, that there's no going back. That as long as this policy's in place, then there's not a room for me and my family if I ever have one. And if there's not a room for every family, then I don't think there's room for any family.
I like that last statement. There's not room for everything.
So, what's it been like in the last 2 years? Like, how do you navigate all of that? I mean, some of you are on missions. Some people were active LDS. Like, what's been happening? Like, how? There's a lot of heavy feelings right now. I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Maybe the better question is, what good things have happened in the last 2 years?
So for me, my church attendance definitely got a little more sketchy after a while. I definitely was in a place where I felt even less welcome in my community. But at the same time, I felt this new kind of invigoration to be vocal about my criticisms, and that to me, sustaining church leaders doesn't mean agreeing with everything they say and every policy in the handbook. Sustaining meant something different to me, and that I was going to be vocal about these things. I remember bearing my testimony a few months after the policy, and bearing my testimony of God's love for all God's children. I bore my testimony about how important the queer community is as in their relation to Mormonism, and how we have them in our pews, and whether you know them or not, they are there and they are listening, and I'm one of them.
Wait, you said all that over the pulpit?
Yes, I did. Yes, and by the end of my testimony, I quoted, Carolyn Pearson's "I'll walk with you," and I was just like, that's my testimony of what Jesus Christ's gospel is about. And I really think that it's important that we all remember that Jesus said the most important commandment was love one another. It wasn't don't be gay. It wasn't listen to your bishop about everything that he thinks is right. It wasn't even follow the prophet. It was love one another. And if we're not doing that, I don't know how we can call ourselves Christian. So for me, in a really positive, negative way, like, I felt so much more confidence to be able to come out and say these things and be a voice in the community. Another kind of weird positive thing that I have noticed is that, anecdotally speaking, with the people I am around, and I'm still around a lot of like active Mormons, not just my family members, but I also have active Mormon friends and things like that. And with this policy change, it caused even some of the most active members of my family and friends to take pause. And like to get someone, like, I'm thinking of one person in particular, and I won't say his name, but to get this particular person to step back and even question something an apostle was saying is huge. Because this policy was so outrageous and so, you're totally fine.
You're totally fine.
Because this policy was so outrageous and so contrary to, so many things, like the second article of faith, people will be punished for their own sins and not for four parents transgressions, right? Like, the policy so contrary to our belief system that, like, this outrageous policy caused people to take pause and go, you know what? There's something not right about this. And, and even this person I'm thinking of, like, they certainly haven't resigned. They're on the High Council, and that's fine and everything. But for them to even take the pause and say, something doesn't feel right about this. And I think that's a good thing, because the more we can deconstruct these hierarchical approaches, these authoritarian figures, and to the lay membership, stake their claim in their authority. And, I get a say in what Mormonism too, and it's not what President Oaks is saying, or Elder Oaks is saying. I'm sorry. I disagree vehemently. But so that, in one way, I feel like that's a positive thing, because people who would never think to question authority, this policy was the thing that made them question the authority. And I think that's a much bigger thing to take note of, because that authority, if you can deconstruct that, we can do all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Right?
That was good. Me, I'm pretty much in the same boat. These last 2 years have been not only the worst hell of my entire life, but probably the greatest blessing. For one, I found affirmation. I've become more active in affirmation. I spoke at the spiritual gathering. I've pretty much gone through a literal wheat and tear separation, especially when it comes to, like, my Facebook posts. I am extremely raw and extremely angry in a lot of my Facebook posts. And I've pretty much lost a lot of friends because of what I posted. But everything I've posted is what I feel I posted is something that has bothered me for the longest. For me, the best thing I could ever do for myself is to literally look in the mirror and say, Wendell, you are needed. So many people tell me that all the time. You honestly need, I felt that I need to learn my history, the church history. I need to learn what the prophets have said. I need to realize that, though they are called to be prophets and apostles, they are still ordinary men with cultural bias. A lot of those men were
Unchecked privilege.
unchecked privileges. Yeah, they're rich, white men.
You right.
A lot of those men have also been there during the time of civil rights, so a lot of the prejudices of that instances are already there.
Yeah.
No, I feel that my relationship before all of this happened with Christ was pretty much a lie. I felt that my dedication was to the leadership. My bishop, my stake president, I felt that, through them I could become closer to Christ. But in the long run, they don't have a say really where I'm going to be in the next life. It's my personal relationship with God, and I feel that it's become a lot stronger. For me personally, I love my family when it comes to the family proclamation. I know everyone here has had it. We've had it jammed down our throats for the past 3 to 4 years. I love my family, but I feel that I don't need them to be with God. I want them. I want to see them in the next life. I want to see them. We can have parties and drink and have a good time. I can watch my grandpa kick everyone's ass for real. But I feel for me that it's opened my eyes to see the message of the gospel that I felt I've taught, which is of Christ, has been completely and totally skewed by the message of eternal families. And I don't know, I tell myself, like, ask myself this all the time: am I attacking like families? I'm like, no, I don't think so. I'm
You personally?
no.
Yeah.
To just going up to random people.
You suck.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
You know, it's a one, like for me, it's a beautiful concept. It's a wonderful concept, but for a lot of people, it is not. It is not. For circumstances, like different circumstances, it's an unobtainable or unwanted goal.
Yeah.
And I believe that we need to get back to like what really needs to be taught is that a personal relationship with God, and how through all the stuff, all the temple ordinances, the covenants and stuff like that they say we shouldn't break, the promises that we've kept. We need to really focus on like what we can do to become closer to Christ in our own personal lives. The policy has really, really opened my eyes to that. And in the long run, like for me personally, like I have nieces and I have my nephew and my nieces. I'm really, 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 really close to them. My nephew was baptized, but he goes to a different church because of certain circumstances. My niece just turned 10, and she's actually going to church with my mom. And I don't want them to feel less because this is how it's supposed to be. This is the ideal, and I don't want them to hate. I don't want them to have that prejudice towards another group of people because that's what they see and they want to fit in. So I guess that's basically my whole goal and everything. Because prejudice isn't born. It isn't inborn. It's learned.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
and I don't want that for them.
So, my life has made like a complete 180 since like 2 years ago. Because when the policy changed, I didn't like myself. I thought I was this bad, horrible person or whatever because of it.
And you were on your mission at the time, and you probably had to be super private about that. I cannot imagine how difficult that must have been to have that policy come out and be on a mission and have nobody to talk to.
It sucked.
Yeah.
I can speak from experience.
Yeah, I definitely did not tell anybody. And, when I first came home, I tried to make that, like, all work out. I could be Mormon and I could be gay. I started, like, justifying things in my head. I was like, I could get a boyfriend and go to church with him. And that would be great. I was like, we can just do that and call it good, and we can both have faith. And I sort of had this like little dream of like my perfect like future that I wanted. And I had a whole bunch of like great like people who are gay that I met from like Utah Valley University's like LGBT group, and then also from several other groups and organizations. And I was just like, I heard these great stories about like, their parents like completely accepting them and all like working out everything. And so I got ready and I came out. And it was tough when I told my parents. It was really tough because my dad had written me this multi-page essay that was basically just a more harsh, rehashed version of the proclamation to the family. And so when I got it, it sort of confirmed to me that I had to live to this standard to satisfy my parents and not live authentically, or I could live authentically and then live a lifestyle that I find important between me and my faith in God. And I decided I would rather live authentically and not have complete acceptance, than to live unauthentically and to be in this like pain and this struggle. And I still have love for my parents. They still love me. They definitely don't completely agree with me, which is a bit hard when you hope the people that are supposed to love you the most don't completely accept you. But I mean, I can't expect more out of them than what they've been taught their entire life. So, but when I came out, I got even more involved in those groups. I was able to get more vocal on Facebook, and I got a ton of love, a ton of support. There's so many great people out there who are like, if you need somebody to talk to, you can talk to me. And I had all these great people to guide me step by step through my journey. One of my favorite people, I'm not going to say her name, but she's Mormon and a very strong supporter of LGBT rights. And her and her husband do so much for our community. And I remember her just telling me that, there's more than one path. There's more than one path to find what's right for you. I had to search that path. It was about 2 or 3 months ago, somewhere. It was pretty recent when I was just walking down the streets in Provo. I just remember having this feeling that said, it's okay. You can be yourself and you'll be fine. That meant everything to me. So I removed my records from the church, which was very difficult, partially because I was called to disciplinary counsel. But I felt peace when I had removed them because I knew that I was following my path that was me. And that was enough. I've been happy. And every time I go on a date, I remember I just come back to where I'm at. I was so happy. It was just so great. And I feel so much joy being able to not have to hide it and to go and be with other people and to build those relationships. It just means so much to me.
Doesn't it feel like taking a deep breath? It's just like taking a deep breath.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And to have that all off my shoulders and to realize that I'm not a monster and that I'm a good person because of who I am on the inside. You don't have to keep all these perfect rules to be good enough. You are good enough by being who you are.
That's really great, Dawn. I like the idea that you know that you will maybe disappoint family, but you will not disappoint yourself. That's really powerful.
It brings a lot more peace, a lot more self-acceptance.
Yeah, that's very cool.
I think my favoriteest thing though, when I was coming out, was my younger brother's reaction. I was just with him at my room at my house when I was living at home. And I'm just like, hey, I'm gay. And he replies back to me, that's okay. Do you want to go play Fire Emblem? He didn't care at all about me being gay at all. He just wanted to play the game. So
How old is he?
He's about 18, 19.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, even better.
Even better.
He's literally the best.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
That's so cool. I kind of have a couple similar experiences. I came out this past summer because there's a lot of reasons. It's a long story. When I got home from my mission, I hit the ground. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna be a gay Mormon. I'm gonna marry a guy. I'm gonna make this work. And I convinced myself that was the only way I was gonna be happy in this life and the next. And I was going with it. I went back to school, and I tried dating boys, and it was, oh my, it was awful. It was so terrible. It was the worst. Like, it was just bad. And
Literally the worst, dating someone you're not attracted
it was,
to.
It was just awful. And, like, I remember, like, I asked out this guy who I knew, and we were really good friends, and, like, we went on this date and stuff. We had a ton of fun. And I went home and was like, why don't I like him? You know, we fit perfectly. We like a lot of the same things. We do a lot of dumb stuff. We laugh. We have fun. Why do I still have this problem? And I remember one night I was just driving around in my car, and I was thinking, I was praying, and like it hit me like all of a sudden, like, I don't want to marry a man. Like, I don't want this life. And I just like sobbed, and like, y'all don't know me. I never cry. I never ever cry. And like 2 hours, I was just like, I can't do this. I can't live this life. And so it took me a while, but I finally came out. And one of the best things about this policy is the fact that now I own my sexuality. Like, I'm not lying to people about why I don't date boys, especially at a certain school I go to. I feel like I'm just being, like, real with people. I kind of started a blog about my experiences, which is total gay stereotype, but I started a blog, and I've had like a lot of like strong Mormons like message me like, thanks for writing about this. Like, I'd never.
Your blog is great, by the way.
Thank you. I think that's pretty funny. They're like, I never like understood like how this would be, like how I didn't understand. I'm like, you're welcome. And so. Yeah.
That's a lot of emotional labor for you to have to do that so other people can understand.
Yeah, and I'm a very private person. Yeah. I'm very private. And so it's, yeah. I just lost my train of thought, sorry. But yeah, I feel like I just own my sexuality now. And like, it's a huge part of me, and I love that part of myself. So that's been a really, really great thing that's come from the policy. Another big thing is I've really had to take a step back and look at the church and be like, what do I actually believe in? Do I believe in the proclamation because I'm a Mormon, or do I actually believe this is legit? I don't. One of the big things I've always kind of struggled with was the plan of salvation. Like, I just can't wrap it around my head how one plan should work for every single person in the world. We're all ridiculously different. We're so different. You know, how is the plan of salvation, how is that going to work for someone who grew up in Provo, Utah? How is that going to work for them and also work for some Buddhist monk in mainland China? It doesn't work. We're so different. And so it's really caused me to look at what I believe. Like, do I believe this because I'm a Mormon, or do I believe this because I actually believe this? And a lot of my beliefs have changed. A lot of them. On my mission, I was sure that I was never, going to go inactive. I was never going to leave the church. I believed 100%. And now, like, I didn't understand why people left the church at all. Now I'm, like, in this situation, like, I get it now. And, I don't know, I feel like I've become a little bit more empathetic to people who do believe, because there's a lot of stuff I don't get. There's a lot of stuff I do like about the church, but just so much that I don't understand. Right now, at this point in my life, I don't think I can work with the church, and it's kind of hard because, I grew up loving this. Like, I was solid, I've been in Relief Society presidencies, I've been on mission, I've served in the temple, I've done everything I wanted to do, and now I'm like staring. I don't know, I feel like it's just a weird position to be in, but at the same time, I'm okay with it, because, I don't know, it's just a weird situation, but, yeah.
For me, the big thing is you definitely found out who your friends are. When got online, started talking about how this policy, how it hurts, and all of a sudden there's all these people saying that you thought were friends that you've known since you were a baby, and they're all saying, no, you need to repent, you're going against the Lord. And you're like, no, I'm not. I am legitimately hurt, and if you were my friend, you would be saying, I acknowledge that you're hurting right now. But what's good has come out of it, I think, for me, is it literally, I completely knocked down any sort of faith that I had. I cleared everything to the bedrock and started building up what I believe from basically, is there a God? And I've been working on it since from there and pulling everything out, looking at it, pulling it into the light and saying, is this good? Is this something I want in my life? And if it's not, I've just discarded it. It's gone, and I don't care about, say, celestial marriage anymore. I don't think that's a real thing. But I can also say, but I do believe that families are forever, no matter what they look like. You don't have to be married in a special pants building, wearing these special pants clothes. The other thing that has been good is...
You okay?
Sorry, that was really funny.
She's just picturing it. It's just, yeah, I know, because I did it.
Yeah,
You know?
special pants building, yeah.
Yeah.
And while everybody else was talking, I was thinking, I think that it was this policy is the first time that I actually came out on Facebook and announced to the great big world that I'm asexual. And it's really up to my involvement in the asexual community. And, you know, the challenges that we face, especially as far as religion goes, isn't the same as for LGBT. But they're there. And, you know, just to say, hey, we're here too. This is another way to be a person that is completely valid. And that's been a really good thing for me too. So yeah, if I look back on it, it's been a really rough 2 years. It's been, especially dealing with family issues, really family issues and religion. But at the same time, it's helped me understand what's really important to me and to come to terms with the things that I think that God or the universe or whatever would have me do. The reason why I'm here.
You know, one thing about what you're saying about, like, being asexual and the challenges you face within the Mormon church, like, I see significant challenges as far as, like, when a religion is placed so heavily on, like, the plan of salvation, right? Like, you have to get married, you have to have children, and not only that, like, as a woman, like, you have to be pumping out those babies, like, it's connected to your, you know,
right, yeah, and that's exactly, I was telling Jeremy this earlier, this is why I submitted my resignation, is because I was thinking about what the celestial kingdom would look like for me as a single woman. Like, that actually looks a whole lot like my version of hell. I do not think I want to be a part of that.
It kind of reminds me of that, I forgot which canon, Beware of False Idols. You know, celestial families that become the God, has become the new God of Mormonism.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, for me, it's like, there's barely any mention of Christ at all. But, I don't know, I always think about that, and like, am I being a little too harsh? But when I hear the message, like, the continual message, you know, about eternal families, and then you see, you know, like in your situation, I was, you know, me being raised in a single parent home. You know, my mom, she was the head, and she still to this day is the head. I could never, ever, ever, ever understand, you know, the whole like role, you know, of women and, you know, men, you know, I can't see my mom like dying, going to heaven, and then being married, you know,
To some random guy that she may or may not know.
Yeah, she'll probably cause him all sorts of hell, and I'd be like, I don't feel sorry for that man. He's like, you know, my mom's a firecracker. She doesn't take anything, but you know, and you know, I don't. Though I can't fully understand, especially what the, you know, women of the church go through when it comes to issues like that. You know, like, I kind of see it as being subservient in some instances, and that's not right to me. But, you know, it's kind of that's how I see it, you know, and I think it's wrong.
I totally get that. You know, my best friend, their mom is like a little worker, and then her dad's still at home. He takes care of all the kids and everything. And I was always just like, Well, they worked out just fine. Like, why
Right.
does this wolf thing
But
really
see,
matter?
that's the tricky part. So, like with the family proclamation, what it does more so than anything else is solidify gender roles.
Yeah.
Because if you mess with the gender roles and realize, well, what if a gay man assumed the place that is supposed to be the woman's place according to the proclamation? What if these gender roles aren't necessarily prescribed on anything but arbitrary social codes?
Right.
What if these gender roles aren't necessary? Well, guess what? That opens the door for homosexuality and trans issues and all sorts of things like that. So I really think that so much of this fear of homosexuality and transgender issues is about patriarchy and misogyny. It's about reinscribing those gender roles so that they're unquestionable, and a lot of people are getting hurt in the process.
Yeah.
And it's all based on cultural definition.
I totally agree.
Even
I
those
totally agree.
who like totally believed in like the Bible and like the Book of Mormon and stuff, I'm like, there was prophetesses. I'm like, does the like hierarchy really matter for gender when there was other people who fit those roles?
Like back when I was like, I'm gonna marry a man, I'm gonna make this work. You know, when I was in that phase of my life, it terrified me to be a mother because I am like the least nurturing person I know. Like I see a baby and I'm like, great, it's a baby, and then like all these other girls, it's so cute. I'm like, what do you do with it? You know, like I don't know what to do with a child.
Just
I
keep
know.
screaming.
I know. Like I don't know what to do with children. I would make a terrible nurturer. So like those gender roles, that like terrified the hell out of me because like I can't do that. I can go to work. I can do that pretty great. But like staying home and raising kids, like if I had kids, you know, yeah, I love them. I love them to death. But I'm just not a naturally nurturing person, and just having that like role reinforced, like that scared me to death.
I remembered the year the Family Proclamation came out. It's like a little history lesson, I believe. When it was announced in the women's session that the brethren kind of took over that, because what I heard is that they were actually going to talk about diverse families, and then they told them to change it to focus more on traditional. I was like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Like, that's messed up, because it's like, oh, these families don't even exist. You know, we have to enforce traditional families because that's the way it's supposed to be. I'm trying to figure out where that like all came from. They say it was like from the very beginning, like Adam and Eve and stuff like that. But it's like, so I'm thinking to myself, biblically and historically, you honestly believe that there weren't gay couples out there? You honestly believe that everyone in the known world was straight or heteronormative?
Well, and just even since the 19th century, all the groups that have the right to talk about traditional families, one man, one woman, and a bunch of kids, Mormons do not have that right. That is not
Amen.
Yep.
Traditional family and Mormonism is patriarchal polygamy.
Exactly.
That's traditional Mormonism.
Right here.
And that's
my side right there.
that's icky. If there's one thing I really don't agree with church history, it's polygamy.
And that's one thing I don't understand either.
I'm with, but if I have my sister wife, we're just off in our little cabin in the desert.
See? Yes!
And then
The asexual
husband-
knows. I can
And
have
then
a
the
sister wife,
husband
totally.
never comes and visits. That's cool.
Yeah.
So we'll just kind of be out here taking care of ourselves, and as long
Right?
as he stays away, we're good.
Well, growing up for me, I thought too, like, okay, so growing up, I genuinely thought polygamy was the most preferred form of marriage, and this was I'm like
You're
killing,
adorable.
I'm like killing the lesbian here.
Oh.
But like, no, but I genuinely believed it too, because I thought, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. I'm gonna have a husband and a sister wife, like hence the bisexualness, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, polygamy, like I'm so Mormon. Yes, let's be polygamous. You know what I mean?
See, I like the idea of a bunch of sister wives, not a husband, though. I'm
And
kidding.
so
The gay men are suddenly really uncomfortable.
and like even my husband, I would say conversations with him, like I'd be totally okay with his sister wife. He's like, I don't know if I'm okay with that. I was like, no, you'd totally be down with it. It's good. If you down.
Even like when I was trying to like be straight, I was just like, you know, I don't think I'd want a second wife. I'm like, I don't want to like
You
push.
don't even want to
I'm like, I don't want to push that on like my future wife if I have a future wife. Which is sort of thing. I was like, I don't know how that's gonna work out. Like, well,
Oh, that's funny.
yeah, I remember I was just like on a date in high school and for like a dance. I went to like kiss this girl. I'm like, nope, this ain't gonna work. And cut it off because I'm like, nope, shut it down, shut it down. Yep.
Oh my goodness.
So crazy.
Yep.
So what do you think of LGBTQ Mormons that have stayed in the church?
I don't know how they do
well,
it.
Yeah.
since I have a lot of interaction with a ton of them, North Star.
I saw that eye roll.
For me, like,
heard that
I tried
eye
it and like they try, and I could tell
Yeah.
that it's really really hard for them. But I also I respect their decision. Hey, if they wanna try and wanna do, they wanna be temple worthy, they wanna keep their covenants, that's fine. But there's some instances where they would attack those who weren't following that.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I draw the line. Like, yeah, I respect your beliefs. I respect like your walk in life, but do not, I repeat, do not attack other people's walks when you yourself want them to respect your walk.
Exactly.
That is absolutely unacceptable to me, and that is hypocritical. Don't say that people that go to Pride are just going there to have unwarranted sex with everyone.
Oh, I can guarantee that doesn't happen.
Not at Salt Lake Pride. And it's like I don't see what the whole the big deal is. And then and this, I'm actually speaking this from experience. I actually had this happen in my Facebook, and then he was like, and I explained to them that Pride for a lot of people means a lot of things. Like, a lot of people have overcome a lot of prejudice, not only in the world, but in their own family. Like, there are people who have been kicked out, people who have been raped, people who have committed, who have obtained, with no fault of their own, sexually transmitted diseases, and they're here, they're surviving, and they're thriving. Pride to them is just not about that. To them, it means that they are here and that they are loved and they are surviving. And that's awesome. That's why I go to Pride. I go to Pride. Yeah, I see a whole bunch of sexy, hot guys. I'm not gonna lie, but I can also see the inner message in Pride, and
Yeah.
Like, despite all odds, we're still here.
exactly. That's
I love that.
and
Pride
I
is
also
beautiful.
understand that that's probably not the same message that every person that attends or participates in Prides. They probably have different. It means something different to them. But to me, I think that's a general realization. That's why we do Pride. That's why we have a Pride Month. I mean,
I feel like back to your question about like the people who are Mormon and they're like living that lifestyle and they're gay. I just like, I hate that word lifestyle, but I couldn't think of anything better.
Just
But-
give it right back to him. Just say,
Yeah.
"Oh, are you living the straight lifestyle?"
I was just like, I tried that when I got home from my mission, and I was like, I couldn't do it, like, personally, because I felt like, I was personally denying part of who I was on the inside, and, I totally respect anybody who decides to be Mormon and to be gay, but I honestly don't see that really working. If the church decided all of a sudden to accept all the gays and everything, would you go back? And I remember, I'm just like, well, I don't know, because of simply the past, in a lot of ways, because I've been there in a lot of ways, is, even if they did, there's still going to be a lot of the prejudices out there, and there's still so many things like, like the proclamation and stuff out in the church that I don't know if it would be very easy for me to be able to transition back.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
When I think about, I honestly don't know how people stay active in church and they're gay. I don't know. Power to them, you know? You do you. I personally don't think I could do that. Right now I'm taking a positive psychology class. Love it. And professor had us the other day. He was like, okay, you're just going to write about, you know, what you envision your life to be within the next 5 years. And I just started writing without even thinking. I just went off. For 5 minutes, I just wrote about what I wanted my life to be. I wasn't even thinking about it. And then he was like, okay, stop. And then he had us go over it again. I wrote about this life I have with me and my wife and this beautiful family we had. And I just thought about that. It's like, that's what I want in life. I don't want to stay single. I don't want...
And you shouldn't have to.
No, I shouldn't have to do that. Like, I hate when people say, you know, everything will make sense in the next life. It's like, well, I don't want to put my happiness on the back burner in this life just for what might happen in the next. You know? Like, I don't know how people make it work.
If you have to change so much to be someone else in the next life, it's not really heaven anymore, is
It's
it?
not heaven.
You're
and
a
then
caricature.
And it's not me. And it's not me. It's not who I am at all. And so, like, you know, for those who, like, stay single and stay in the church and stay active, you know, props to you. I couldn't do it. I couldn't.
I think a lot of it depends on the ward, too. Like, so much depends on a local level. Like, even some gay couples can still go to church and they don't get a lot of retaliation and stuff. To whereas, like, someone else just comes out as gay and it's like, sorry, you lose your calling, you're no longer a part of this community. And so it really is a product of, like, kind of like Bishop Roulette.
It really is. And, like, that's, like, I've had a lot of people, like, have you talked to a bishop about this? Like, you should really talk to a church leaders. Because, like, no, like, I don't know. It's like, what are they going to tell me? You know, what are they going to tell me different?
Like, I didn't have any problem until I got a new bishop. And then that new bishop, like, chased after me. I swear.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's,
I'm sure he was the reason I got called to this tonight.
Yeah.
I'm like, I hadn't even done.
Right.
You got called to a disciplinary council without even having done anything.
Yeah. I'm like, I haven't even had sex, you know, or
Bless you, Dawn.
like, you know. I was like, whatever.
Like, I just keep a low profile because, like, I go to a certain school. I'm about to graduate. I don't want to cause this, like, I don't want to not graduate at this point. And so, like, I still have to keep a low profile about everything. But
It's so funny because, like, I actually have the Lord I used to go to until I had that falling out with the bishop and stuff. There are actually two members of Northside who are also part of the Lord, and I won't hang out with them. It's not because I choose not to, but it's like, well, they go to the temple, they go to the Mormon, they go to church, they always invite me to do all these activities and stuff.
their life is so different.
And it's like, and they say all the time, you know, like, you know, no, like I don't judge you because you know you're not active in the church or anything like that. We still love you. It's like, well, I did message you one time, you know, like several times, and you didn't answer.
Yeah.
You know, and, like I can't, like I honestly, like the Spirit is telling me that I can't talk to you about these things, and it's like
For your own protection.
for my own protection, you know, and like they're really nice, but it's like it's come to the point, like for me, it's a little bit too bubbly. It's like, you know, church this, church everything. Like I go to the temple, they wear their white suits and ties, and I'm like, I'm sorry, but I'm too hurt right now. And no offense to you guys, but don't invite me to any of these activities, and then just don't invite me at all. So it's like, okay.
I don't know if I have much to add to everybody else. Has just been so eloquent, and I'm over here like, yes, I agree. But I've been thinking about, like Blair, I come from a big, sprawling Mormon family. I have over 100 first cousins.
Oh my gosh!
Too big.
Yep. Yep.
But and there are
Wow.
several that I suspect to be queer, but they haven't come out, and so I'm not going to say anything because that's extremely bad manners.
Give it time; they'll come.
Yeah. And so, and I'm okay with them wanting, if they're going to church and they're trying to make it work, that's fine. That's their choice. But at the same time, if I'm over here saying, "Hey, look at me. I'm asexual. I'm out of the church. I'm doing just fine," giving them this chance to say, "Okay, there's a different way to do this. You don't have to do this whole just because there's like a zillion of us, and are all saying that this is what the only way to live, because it's not true."
Like, I've had a lot of experiences, like, within the past couple months, like, outside of the church that have brought me, like, such insane happiness. Like, I, growing up, I always equated, like, church equals happiness. Happiness equals church, And, like, I'm just kind of starting to realize that happiness can be found, like, anywhere, in anything. Like, I went on this hike today, kicked my ass. I had, like, the best spiritual experience ever. It was beautiful. It started snowing. I love the snow, by the way. It just started snowing all around me, and like it was amazing. Like I can't even describe like how great that was. And that wasn't that great.
Yeah, I think it's important to recognize there's more than one way to Mormon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
definitely.
so even for someone like me, like I'm still active, but I don't have a temple recommend anymore. And I do Mormonism on my own terms.
And I think that's important.
Yeah.
Like, you do you. It's your life.
I love that. You do you.
You do you,
Like,
man.
for me, that was one thing. I was always just like, I was like shocked when I came out and stuff because I was always told wickedness never is happiness. But I was
really happy.
always, whenever I go on a date or something, I just cannot stop smiling. I'm just so happy and so grateful.
That is so
And-
adorable.
I know,
And
right?
when I was like,
I want to adopt you.
and when I was like closeted, they're like, "Why are you so happy?" Oh, I was just hanging out with friends.
Right?
But I was just so happy.
Oh.
So I mean,
Yeah.
it didn't make sense to me, but I was like, okay.
Yeah, it was like, I talked to this girl that I'm like head over heels with, and it's like, I have the stupidest smile on my face. I was like, and I was like, wow. Yeah, so yeah, I did that.
So what, I think we're probably almost done, maybe. I don't know. Do you guys have anything else you'd like to say? Because I do have one more question. Or unless you have other things you want to say.
That's the way.
Are you happier today than you were 2 years and 1 day ago?
Well, that's a loaded question.
I know.
I'll
So
let
I
you
have-
know.
I have
I'll let you
another
know after
question
my
too.
therapy appointment on Wednesday. I'll let you know.
I have another question too. But you don't know. That's fine. That's fine. That's a totally valid answer, obviously.
It's a tentative yes for me. I've been dealing with a lot of mental health issues, completely unrelated to being Mormon or being gay. It's just my genetics have kicked in, and all
Right.
of a sudden decided that, oh, by the way, we're crazy now.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of thrown a new spanner into the works. But at the same time, I feel like I'm more authentic. And yeah, I still have all these mental health issues, and I know my family's thinking, well, not telling me this, but I know that they're thinking, well, she just go back to church. She'd be okay. And when I did that, I did the mission thing, and I was absolutely miserable and depressed and suicidal on my mission. So I know that that's not the answer, but okay. So if you were to look at my life from the outside, from the outside, I think you'd probably say, no, she's not really all that better off. But I know from my heart, from my inside, looking out, then yes, I absolutely am.
Definitely. Probably like happiest I've been ever. So
Really?
I mean,
Good.
that just feeling of like peace and being okay with yourself. It's not something that I could really ever trade.
For me, it's been kind of a roller coaster. There's a part of me that I wish I was still part of the church. But I've only been a member for 10 years. It's been a very, very integral part of my life, and I can honestly say how much good and how much good it's made my life. So that's probably the hardest part. It's because part of me feels like I'm turning my back on the one thing that's getting me the most joy, but at the same time, I'm actually being able to to truly know who I am, where I stand when it comes to God. Sometimes, like, there are a lot of times where, when I go through major depressive episodes or anxiety issues. It's all because of, like, there's that feeling of, like, hopelessness and, that feeling that I have nothing, I have nothing. And I think a lot of us can actually relate to those feelings. But I've honestly, like, the last 2 years, I've had more authentic, happy moments than I've ever had before.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think, similar to you, Wendell, it's definitely been a roller coaster. But if there's one thing that has come out of this the last 2 years, is that the policy change has challenged me to live more authentically and more openly with my community. And in that regard, I would definitely say I am better off and maybe even happier.
I definitely, it's like really, really awesome. I think about myself 2 years ago. I think about Mission Morgan, and she
I like
was
that.
Mission Morgan, and she was happy. That was like, I just made my mission really fun. I wasn't the most obedient, but I just had like the funnest 18 months of my life. And like I just think about her and where she was at and stuff, and like her thoughts and like how she viewed life. Like I still love her to death. I love her. Like,
Mission Corey's extremely jealous.
yeah. Mission Morgan was just
Is
like,
Mission Morgan crying?
no, it's current Morgan.
Oh, right, it's current Morgan.
No, but I still love her, and she's still like a lot. Like, she built me to where I am today. But I would say that I'm happier, I think, and I'm just more authentic with people. Like I don't have to hide this huge part of me. I don't have to. I don't know. I just feel a lot better about myself. And life still isn't totally easy. Like, I still have a lot of hard days. School sucks. I just want to graduate and be done. But it's still good. There's a lot of great things I have to look forward to.
This has been another episode of I Like to Look for Rainbows. Please join us again next time.